Hi, everyone. I am so excited to be back. It's been a minute. So, let me kind of tell y'all about my process. First off, I've been windmilling the shit out of whatever had me sick, okay? And I'm finally getting to the point where I have a bit more of my voice back. It's kind of coming back to its normalcy, and hopefully, I'll be there in a bit. But also, I've been windmilling with the editing process. Honey, I tried Canva. Okay, I have been trying to work back with iMovies and a few other things. I personally would rather be behind the camera and like do the edits, but baby, the universe was just not giving it to me in that particular era or in that particular way. So I was like, all right, let me just get on camera and talk about my content and do my thing, do my 1-2. So in this video, which I'm happy, very happy to do it. I'm happy for you joining me. So thank you. But in this video, we're going to talk about the number 9. As we are in the year 2025, baby, and it has been given a lot of things. I kind of figured, 9 is it's the last of the single digit numbers, so a lot of times, often it represents completions, rebirths. I've been going through some 9 moments myself personally, and I think as a collective, we can just kind of see where the world is and how things are changing. So we gonna buckle in, we gonna ride this thing, and we gonna do it in a spiritual way, in a way that not only offers, with it the change, but the lessons that come with the changes, right? So we're going to go into the number 9 in this video. We're in the year 2025. Okay, 2 plus 2 makes 4 plus 5 makes 9. So, and there's a lot of energy with the number 9. So in this video, we are going to celebrate it, elevate it, and break it down. And I'll be talking about the symbology, the numerology, and the reference that astrology has for this magically magnificent number 9. So to begin, 9, of course, is the last of the single digit numbers. Okay. And I think it's really interesting too when you think about the number line. We begin with the 0, right? Then the 1. Okay. And then we see the 0 and the 1 reunite in a single form, right? To form the 9, right? Because the 9 basically is a 0 at the top and a 1 at the bottom. And I got some notes right here, but y'all don't mind me being a little creative, right? Boom. Zero. Boom, with the 1 right there, the 9, okay? So we basically kind of start backward from the beginning to complete the end. So 9 already gives like this God body, beginning to end, alpha, omega, first becomes last kind of vibe, okay? And we just getting started with the breakdown on the video, right? But what I think is also interesting too about the symbols that make up the number 9, if we continue to count up and we get to 10, right? We see the same thing. We see the 1, then the 0 in front of that particular form to make 10. So the 0 and the circle, or the circle and the line, or the 1 and the 0, that's what I meant to say. The 1 and the 0, okay, these symbologies that form the number 9 are very, very important. So I want to go ahead and break that down here. Now, 9 broken down into symbology, it's really huge because, again, the 0 and the 1 are basically the circle and the line. Now, the circle and the line are rudimentary, that word, right? Y'all know what I'm talking about. These are like basic shapes that you see all throughout the universe. Okay, it's like the world forming shapes. If it ain't a circle or a curvature or a straight line, right? That's what we're seeing all the time. And to even complement that further, right? The circle and the line, or the 0 and the 1, also make the digital world, aka better known as the binary code, right? So these are staple rudimentary shapes that we're seeing in the symbology of one number, right? So personally, I believe that nine's unification of these world forming shapes, right? The circle and the line. It's not only, very much representing completion that it shows in numerology because it's the last of a single digit set of numbers, but it's also unifying the two rudimentary shapes and forms that we see all throughout our life, right? So there's like a completeness vibe that you get when you think about the number 9. Even when you count in, right, 27, 28, 29, right? You feel like you're about to complete something before you go into the next set. Now, I'll say this in even greater humor of as the world turns, it recycles, reduces, and reuses the same shit or symbols, right? The circle actually gives birth to the line, right? So when we're talking about the rudimentary symbols that make up the number 9, we're talking the circle and the line, but the circle actually gives birth to it. One real interesting example of this is when you think about the moon. The moon in full illumination looks like a circle. When you think about a new moon, though, it's very thin. So if you stretched out that thin shape, you get a line, right? So essentially, the circle is the supreme chi of all of the shapes, right? Giving birth to the 1. But we live in a duality, okay? So because we live in a duality, the contrasting counterpart to the circle would be the line. Now, what I also think, and we're going to go into the numerology's energy on the aspect of nine when it comes to rebirth, okay? Because by way of numerology, we know that it means completion. It's the last of a single digit set when it comes to the single digit values. But it also has this cool rebirthing energy about it as well. Now, we got the 9 month human gestational period, of course, which is nine, right? Even when you look at a pregnant woman's belly, like imagine a pregnant woman from a particular angle. If you just looked at her from like the belly down, she would look like a nine, right? With a baby, with the roundness and then the straight part, right? All the way down to just inception, okay? The circular egg uniting with the linear sperm, right? To conceive life. Like, I mean, God is really amazing at how it recycles the same symbols. Now, I also think something that's very interesting when it comes to the nine is any nine that anytime you multiply a number by nine, you're going to get um, a way of reducing it back to the nine. Okay, so what I mean by that, right? Numerology people, we get it. Because we always like reduce things down to a single digit number when we think about the numerology. So 9 times 3, 27. 2 plus 7 makes 9. We could do this with 600. We could do this with 75 times 9. Okay. So 75 times 9 would be 675. 6 plus 7 plus 5 is going to equal 18. Okay, 1 plus 8 makes 9, right? So, and 9 is unique by doing that. It's the only number that can literally rebirth itself, which is why the energy does have which is why the number of 9 has the energy of rebirthing. Okay. 9 is absolutely divine, y'all. It is. By way of the symbology and the numerology, we can see that. But I want to tap in a little bit into the astrology of it all. Okay. Now, when it comes to astrology, I feel like astrology is the psychology that we use to understand a lot about the human mind, the collective mind, your own individual mind, right? Where the symbology can kind of show you the image that you're seeing, right? What you're seeing. And then the numerology kind of shows you value and principles that are intrinsic to that number, right? To their energy. Astrology just kind of is like how your imagination works at using the shit, okay? So to go to the nine vibration of the astrology world, we got to visit the ninth house, okay? Here in the ninth house, we have the swaggeringly audacious number 9 by way of the ninth house. And the ninth house is all about philosophy, higher learning, traveling long distance, right? We also have the outstanding planet Jupiter, Big Daddy, okay? Jupiter is giving gifts, okay? It is a very benevolent planet that is a wise teacher through experience, but with those experiences, right, we learn things along the way and we're gifted many cool things. We also have the freedom loving archer himself, itself, okay, gender fluid. Sagittarius, okay, so Sagittarius is going to be the element of mutable fire represented here by the ninth house. Fire representing creativity, okay. How God body is that? We think of God as the ultimate creator, okay, and creativity is the only element. Well, fire is the only element that you have to actually create, right? So it does have that resonance of the creator's or God body's vibration. But I'm gonna take it a little bit further too when we talk about the number 9 and its relationship in the ninth house. Okay, now the ninth house is about travel long distance. Okay, when you think about the number 9, when you start at a 0, right? Let's say if you're starting there from your count and you go up to 1, the longest distance from 0 by way of single digit numbers would be 9, right? So you got to go the longest distance this way when it comes to the astrology house. So long distance travel. Also, Jupiter is known as the father star, aka the further star. So it's further away from its original starting point. Now, if you think about when astrology starts its rhythmic new setting by way of Mother Nature's calendar, we would be looking at the first house in astrology, which would be Aries. And Aries is a constellation in the northern hemisphere. Okay, so it's one of the other fire constellations. So if we start here at the north, right, by the time we get to 9, right, to completion, we would be at the southern hemisphere. Okay, and of course, there's a lot of things that are happening by way of the astronomy with that. When you're more north and closer to the sun, you're going to have warmer days, longer amounts of time to spend with the sun. And the further south the sun goes, we notice that it gets colder, right? So there's this energy by way of the sun going further, right, or farther off. That kind of marks the energy of our plans. When you're first starting to get a plan up, like from your first house perspective, you got to warm it up. You got to, really identify what you need to be doing to get yourself there. But what you're trying to ultimately do is go the distance, right? Go farther. And the further south you go, the closer you can get to winter. Now, winter, by way of principle, when it comes to the seasons, winter is the principle of solidification, right? Of form. As a creative, we already look. I've been struggling when it comes to creativity. Okay, just by way of like me trying to get things in a matter of fact kind of thing. I've been creating, like for instance, let me give you an example through my life, right? Real life, because I was so fixated on what my first house looked like for my content to be like videos that I could edit. I could get in here on iMovies and add some photos and da da da. But it just wasn't happening like that. Okay. And so because of that, it was hard for me to materialize, right? Winter is the materialization. It's ruled by Capricorn, which is the earth sign, and earth is a material house, right? So I just went coming into the world like that. It wasn't hitting my reality. Like Saturn wasn't spinning around so that it could become real for me. Okay. So now I'm like, okay, let me go back to the drawing board. Okay. What I had intended by way of my first house to land me further just was not materializing, right? So I had to go visit the great teacher, Jupiter. Okay, so basically Jupiter was like, bitch, you keep doing the same thing over and over and over again and keep getting the same results. It's just time to start from scratch and do something different, right? So here I am. Different. Okay. And actually was something materializing to actually see, right? So Jupiter does represent like this idea of like X marks the spot. And in fact, something very cool about Sagittarius, because it's in the southern part of the sky, it's pointing very close to the Centaurus constellation, the other centaurs. Sag is a centaur, right? With the half human body and the I guess the horse booty. You know what I'm saying? Got donkey. But the point is, Sagittarius, because it's the archer, it's got its aim towards the centaur constellation, specifically the genitalia area of the centaur, which is the crux, right? Or AKA the cross that's in the sky. Now, this is significant because, again, nine does connect to the rebirthing energy, and the genitalia is where we make all that happen, right? But it's also very interesting, too, when I think about the concept of Jupiter being considered the father star, or the further star, right? Because, again, from the distance from 0 to 9, that's that energy. But also when it comes to father, right? Um, Jupiter is known as Zeus, aka, right? And Zeus had the title of Agnus Dei in Latin, which basically means Lamb of God. So there's a correlation with Zeus, the ninth house, Jupiter energy, right? With the Christian concept of the Father, right? And also, when you think about the Crux constellation, which is the Christian representation of the cross, and Sagittarius pointing at it, I mean, this is just to bridge the gap. This ain't to upset nobody and offend nobody. In case you are a person who's religious who's watching this video, I think we just have more alike than we're gonna have separate. So these are where maybe we can bridge the gap and make it less my God better than my practice is better than yours. You know what I'm saying? Like they're very similar, right? In that sense, right? So Jupiter is also known as the father star for this reason. Now let us go back into the number 9 again, okay? If we start at the ninth house and we travel 9 signs later, we're gonna give birth to the sun. Okay? So from Jupiter to the fifth house, the father basically gives birth to the son. Okay? Now also to talk about the Christian story as well. God said that he would leave the Holy Ghost or the Holy Spirit, right, when he has to take his son back up to heaven. And I think that's just an allegory from, like the sun going away and it becoming nighttime. So what did he do? He left the Holy Ghost. So if you go from the fifth house, 9 signs up, you're going to arrive at the last of the fire elements, which would be the first house in Aries, right? Now, the first house deals with persons or personas, characteristics, personal matters, right? Person is just another word for ghost. Yeah, look at the etymology. I ain't lying. That's all it is. You know what I'm saying? Ghoulish. Okay. So basically, we are the Holy Ghost that God, the Christian Bible, is talking about. Here and it also has a tie into this divine number, the number 9, which again is taking 2 world forming shapes, the circle and the line, to come together to unify in a 3D way so that we can experience life the way that we experience it. Speaking of the ninth house, this is the house of experience, right? And there's a lot of phenomenal things that are actually going on with this energy of the ninth house. So I will tie back a little bit into the nine's energy, okay, when it comes to the ninth house. Now, we're going to go planets here real quick. Jupiter, of course, is the wise teacher. It teaches you through experience, right? And it's the benefactor planet. So Jupiter is really here to give you gifts, right? But like any father, you can't just throw the kids the keys to the Range Rover and they ain't got no license. You know what I'm saying? You'd be causing all kind of problems, right? So it's going to give you gifts according to its wisdom, right? And sometimes you get what the fuck you asked for, and you just got to deal. Okay, Jupiter don't what it is, right? But the point is, right, when we get gifts, these tend to be things that we've earned because we went the distance. This is the principle here, right? There's that saying that faith without works is dead. And this is kind of to support the energy that Jupiter has within the ninth house. You got to go the distance and you got to go through experiences in order to receive gifts, okay? You don't have the gift of knowing what sushi is like if you won't taste it, right? You won't have the gift of knowing what it's like to start that business or, ask that girl out on a date. You won't know that experience if you won't just take the chance to go and ask, right? So Jupiter is going to give you gifts, right? And sometimes the gift is rejection, and sometimes, baby, rejection is protection. Okay. So regardless of what it is, the experience or the outcome of it, right? You went through it. You get the gifts. Boom, that's yours. Okay, nobody take that away from you, right? Because you went through and went the distance to travel to see what it was going to arrive, then therefore that's yours. That's all you, boo. And Jupiter is here to support that. So I like this energy when it comes to like the great teacher. I actually have a lot of we ain't gonna talk about me. We ain't gonna talk about me because this ain't this video, right? But if you want to know, okay, I am a Raza Sagittarius, and I actually have Jupiter in Sagittarius. I got a couple planets in my ninth house, so I like to deal with this energy, but from a way of like trying to get a higher understanding, and that's what experience is supposed to teach you too. Okay, it's not just about going through the experience just to be going through it, right? Because that would be kind of silly. We even call it insanity when people keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. As I had been with this content shit, okay, completely driving myself crazy, right? Sometimes you just gotta look at your experience and see what's actually happening so that you can assess what you need to do the next time you set your aims for it, right? That's wisdom. That's because I've went through it, okay? It didn't go the way I wanted to go the first time, but now that I can go and revisit it, I'm able to have a different type of outcome. I'm able to have a different type of experience. And this is what Jupiter is here to support, right? In the ninth house. This is the wise teacher. And the greatest teacher that you're going to ever have in life is experience. Even in the real world, right? You can go and get, accredited for something. You can go and spend a bukus of money on degrees, right? Just for a company to say, well, where's your experience? Yep. Binner did that. Okay, so life is like that. Like for whatever reason, the experience energy it's like pretty much God body principle that governs so many different areas of our life. Okay, now I want to talk about the number 9 by way of the planets because the planets also have a similar vibration when it comes to 9. The first house and the eighth house are both ruled by Mars. 1 plus 8 makes 9, right? So Mars, which is a principle of force, motivation, passion, right? It's really the things that you're going to put your energy towards, right? And you have to force things to start up, right? Startups don't just start up, right? You got to put some willpower behind it, so to speak. But right? Because Mars is about using our force, our will to fight, our will to really drive our plans through. It's cool to have a snapshot from the first house, but what Mars is really trying to do is go eighth house with it too and rebirth it, right? If I put a seed in the ground, first house, I don't want that seed to just stay a seed in the ground. I want it to be a plant. I want it to transform. I want to be able to inherit, okay, my first house aim, which is to create it to be the thing that it wants to be. Like if I want a pumpkin, right? I don't put that pumpkin seed in the ground and I want to eventually, after I water it, nurture it, and let it do its thing, I want to be able to go harvest a pumpkin, which is what the eighth house is about. It's about your inheritances. It's about arriving at a destination. And this is what Mars is trying to do. So it is also operating in this 9 energy of higher learning through experiences, okay? But it's just got to visit those 2 houses in order to get a higher grasp of how to It's just got to go through those two. I don't know. Some have, and I'm like, okay, so I might have to edit that. But basically, it's got to go through those two houses in order to experience that. Let's talk about Venus too, okay? Venus rules the second house and the seventh house. Two plus seven, of course, makes nine, okay? So the way that Venus is trying to get a higher understanding of love, okay? And don't we have to learn about how to love? Baby, it's 1,000, it's 50 million 11 love songs out here, and we still ain't figured the shit out, right? Love is kind of a tricky thing because with love, we have desire, right? We have the things that we naturally are romance over and we're attracted to. And it's very Taurus second house, right? Where we are fixated, we know what we like, we know what we value, we get a little bully on it, a little possessive about it, right? So love is definitely that. So love can feel like it's a very strong thing that's going to be here to stand on and lock down in. But the other principle of love that we cannot forget is relationships, where we got to make decisions, we got to make choices, we got to think about this the long ways, right? Is this something really that I want to follow and see where it goes, right? Or is love just as fickle and I just decide, you know what, this too heavy, this don't weigh up, it's not balancing, right? This is what Venus goes through all the time. This is why we fall in and out of love. You know, Libras fall. It kick off fall season, right? So what you love back in spring, put that shit away. I don't want next. Okay, like that. It could very much be like that when it comes to Venus's principle by way of the nine's energy. Okay, and we all are susceptible to this energy. I got a goddamn Libra moon. Okay, baby, it ain't easy. But I still have to work with these energies like everybody else. And so the principle of love here, by way of desire, is to teach us. We all learn how to use our force. We're all learning how to use our diplomacy when it comes to loving matters. Okay, so that we can get to that higher level of where we want to arrive at. But Venus has to visit two houses in order to learn it, right? It's not just about you wanting to possess it. It's really about the choices and the decisions that you're going to make to be in a harmonious relationship with it. That's what Venus is saying. Now let's talk about the third house, okay? And the sixth house, Mercury. Mercury rules the third house, and the sixth house, 3 plus 6 makes 9, of course. So and this is Mercury. Mercury is like Jupiter's little bro, right? Mercury is definitely here to help us learn, help us observe, get the intel that we need, right? To take us the long ways and to those experiences that we desire. But first, Mercury has to once it gets that information from the third house, it's just curious, talking, real flirtatious here with the energy of the third house. Now that information that we were just gathering just for the sake of gathering, we got to analyze it. We got to find ways to make it useful, ways for this information to be efficient for us. And then we can have something to offer that's useful, that's healthy, because not all information is healthy, right? You could hear that it's a sale at a certain place and go out there and drive out just to realize it's 5% off and they did a damn 10% markup, right? So what was that about, right? And sometimes it's just like that, right? Mercury has to move around, it's got to sift. Sometimes and that information, once you apply it to an experience, will let you know whether it was useful or not, right? But Mercury still got to learn. You're going to learn today, okay? And one of the biggest ways that Mercury is learning is by alchemizing these energies into actual experiences, right? To see what information is useful and what's just for, kitchen table talk, right? Finally, the planets that we're going to visit are going to be the sun and the moon. I like to call it a Noxana moon from the mummy. I mean, like these Hollywood loves to throw shit in your face, okay? But a Noxana moon, we're talking about the fourth house and the fifth house. 4 plus 5 makes 9. Now, these particular celestial bodies are big time heavy because these are the celestial bodies that we see often, okay? The sun, every day, right? The moon, every night, right? And sometimes they kind of fade a little bit, so we don't get as much of the moon, but still. Nonetheless, even through the phases, these are the closest celestial bodies. So the fourth house is about nurturing foundations, really setting up and pouring into something, right? And when you pour in and get a good solid foundation to become more familiar with it, you go to your fifth house and just go ham and showing it off, expressing it, creating it, generating it because you love it, right? But your sun and your moon have to work together in a way that alchemizes to get you to your experience, right? It's almost like at nighttime when you get a chance to actually reflect at night on what it is that you need to do, right? You're doing that so that you can get prepared for your day the following day, right? To go out there and activate and go and get what it is that you were aiming and reflecting on, right? So these two energies work together to help us get to those higher experiences, to go further, to go the distance, to, get our X marks the spot, right? But in order to do that, we have to work them together. So the nines energy is all throughout, not just the symbols, not just its numerology meaning, even the way we plan things, which basically the planets, right? AKA, like, there's a plan for how we want to approach love, right? I have a different plan because my planets are, in different zodiacs and maybe different houses and stuff like that than maybe yours, right? But still, we got a plan, right? We always have to plan on how we approach these things, which is what the planets do represent. Now, I did not talk about the external planets as much with the number nine energy, which I'll cover those really quickly because about it's not as much alchemy in it. It's more like a way of deducting it. And the way that I use this formula is when you think about um, the nines energy, okay, which is all about completion and rebirth. The 10th house is more about once things are completed, okay? Because there's not any creativity. There's basically no creative energy when it comes to winter houses, which would be the 10th, 11th, and the 12th house, right? So we're going to use nine to deduce, look at those planets there, and see what nine has to say, okay? So let's talk the 10th house. 10th house would then be Saturn here. We've got Capricorn, and this is the house of public, things on display, basically your reputation, right? So think about this too, okay? When it comes to what you've built in your reputation, if you were to deduce nine from that, that's all you. 10 minus 9 is going to leave you with the one, right? So the one thing that's constant about your name out here in the streets is you. Not to say that all things that people say about you are true, and it's not to say that the things that you built and the legacy that you have could be all you. It probably took a team to help you do that, right? You ain't get there by yourself. But the aspect here is that by way of your reputation, people are looking at what? You. They're looking at you as the one to have determined or to have some kind of input on that, right? And this is the nine's energy when it comes to that, right? So, how we got to the reality of your legacy being what it is, right? Well, it was about one, your experiences. And my experiences are unique to me, like yours are unique to you. But the whole principle and aspect of that is still the same for all of us. Like, ain't nobody absolved from that. We all got to go through it. Now, let's look at the 11th house. The 11th house is also co ruled by Saturn, but here we're introduced to the planet Uranus as well. Now, Saturn is about making shit reality, right? Like your legacies, your reputation, you know what I'm saying, for what it is, right? But in the 11th house, it's more about the progression of things. It's about the changes that you got to go through. And it's really about the future, okay? So the way I like to think of this too, anytime you're thinking about the future of humanity, because the 11th house is also representing humanity. So anytime you're thinking about how humanity kind of got to where it's going or the trajectory that it wants to go, when you take away the experiences that humanity has had as a collective, 9 minus 11, you're left with 2. You got to look at humanity's values. Okay. So if there's a humanity or an aspect of like how we're looking at things collectively of society, if society is fucked up, look at what the things that societies value. Okay. Look at the Western world. Look at our entertainment. Look at our video games. Look at our music. Look at our movies, right? You know what I mean? There's a level of violence and hypersexuality that is here, okay, that persists in the West where it doesn't persist like that in other countries. You can go other places and it's not like that. You know what I mean? So there's a correlation to it. Now, people want to argue, and I'll do another video about entertainment and all those things. I will talk about that, okay? So people do like to kind of act like entertainment does not impact humanity. Oh, absolutely it does, okay? Absolutely, it does, right? But again, to see how we got there, right? This is just the principle. This is not Valencia just doing, her thing, right? These are principles that astrology is here to show. If you want to see, right, based off of humanity's experiences of how it got there, think about the values that it has. Certain places, they just value hustling. Like they have those markets. I don't know, like it's one of those Eastern countries. I ain't never been, but I see it on YouTube sometimes, right? Where everybody hustling, everybody like you buy this, you got to buy that. It's a societal thing where they value, okay, hustling, selling people things, probably selling you some shit that you don't need or some shit that's gonna break down in a minute. You know what I'm saying? These are the values that they have. You go to other places and they just value giving you your space, and this is the way the communal energy works, right? Based off their value system. So it works by way of this alchemy, no matter how you look at it, right? Or this is just how these systems are. Okay. I'm talking about principles and systems when it comes to this. Okay. So not just the West. I'm not like trying to roast nobody or nothing like that. I'm just, giving examples. But lastly, of the last examples, right? When we talk about the number nine's energy in the 12th house, dreams, illusions, unveilings, right? When we take 9 away from 12, we're left with the number 3. So, how we end up uncovering the things that were hidden from us is learning, which is what the third house is all about. It's about communicating, okay? Um, it's about listening, okay? And seeing what it has to say. Because here's the thing about the end. Whenever you're watching a movie, right, that you're interested in, you want to see what happens in the end, okay? And the only way that you can do that is if you continue to develop along the way, travel short, distance by distance, which is what the third house kind of represents. And you continue to be in that environment to see it through to the end, right? That's the only way. Also, as things become unveiled to you, okay, you begin to learn more. It's like, oh, okay. Because the 12th house has a lot to do with occult information, secrets, things like that, things that were kept from you. And oftentimes you won't know until you go through a whole process to see it through to the end what it is, right? Which is also to help us to understand that there's an aspect of learning that follows us throughout the whole thing. Okay. Um, there's been many things that I've attempted that I thought I knew everything there was to know about it, went through it and just, discovered so much, right? So learning is a never ending thing. And the 12th house helps us to also realize that as well by way of this 9 principles energy with the alchemy, right? I hope that makes sense, y'all. I hope it do. It might not have. And if it didn't, that's okay. Okay. But I just want to talk about the God body and principle of the number 9. 9 is a rhythm of supreme Kai. There is a reason why the creator's voice sounds like thunder, which is remnants of the god Thor, right? Because when you speak in a way of the nine's energy being, like the South Sagittarius and all that shit, right? Sagittarius is known for being a frank energy, you just kind of say what it wants to say, but it has the freedom to do that because it's possessing so much. Okay, we talking about symbols that. Okay, going back to the symbology real quick, right? If I were to draw a circle, right? Now this is just basic shit. It's just a basic circle, right? But this circle can tell me a lot. This is a container. So everything on the inside of this, right, is what I contain. And these are cycles that we go through, right? The cycle of 2024 was in here. The cycle of 2023 was in here, right? We had to go through a cycle from point A back to point A. And these are things that we see over and over again in life, cycles that repeat themselves, okay? Now, what about the line that makes up the number 9, right? The line is a whole nother different geometry. All I'm doing is going from point A to point B. I'm separating it though, right? I'm not going to try to go back and revisit this. You see what I'm saying? So basic geometry, right? But it's giving me different information each time I do it, right? If I'm drawing a point that I'm trying to go to a different point, right? This is me like trying to grow and extend and expand, which is what the ninth house is about, right? But you're expanding from a way of a you're expanding from a point of a container, right? Basically everything that you had contained here, identifying a point from that container and just saying, hey, this is the point I'm gonna start at right here, right? I know I got all this within my realm, right? So if you're a graphic designer, okay, maybe doing designs for yourself, or maybe you making a commercial for somebody, or maybe you're adding edits to somebody's music video, right? Whatever it is, your wheelhouse is graphic design, but you are identifying points every day that you're expanding, separating from, drawing lines to, and baby, that look like some kindergarten shit. Okay, but y'all get the point, right? This is geometry here, and this is how our minds are working. Okay, it sounds really juvenile and elementary and all that shit, and it is, right? Because God is really simple. We complicate shit with our minds and make it all hard. But the point is whenever you can take a point, right, and identify from a wheelhouse that you have and separate, this is what you're doing it with our lives all the time. This is God body principle. This is why we are able to recycle, rebirth, complete one thing and start the next, right? As long as we got breath in our body, right? So don't never let nobody tell you that you're too old, that you're too black, that you're too young, that you're too whatever, right? You have the capacity to go out here and experience life for the way that you want to experience. You shouldn't even put no limits on yourself. The ninth house is not about limitations. It's about freedom. It's about being able to explore, okay? It's about being able to go out here and just see what life has to offer, okay? So, now there are times when you're going to have restrictions. Saturn ass do come up, okay? Sometimes reality is what it is, right? But the point is that the God of the universal God, the God who's making all this shit works, is saying, why would you limit yourself? It's saying, why wouldn't you give yourself the opportunity to explore? If I'm going to give you a gift, right, which is what Jupiter is about with its benevolence, right? Why would you limit what I want to give you? Why would you settle for this when you can go out there and really see what the world has to offer? And those people who are doing it like I'm trying to do, you know what I'm saying? There's shit out here for us. There's shit out here for you. Okay? We should not be just living in the limitations and the confinements of what the world has to say. Not when God gave us all this. Not when there's a symbology here to say that 9 is not just 9, and it's not just the last of the numbers, and it's not just the number that comes after 8. No, there is a geometry here, and we are building and using these structures every fucking day to make our lives. Just like the buildings that we live in, just like the places that we go to visit. We are doing these things. It came from somebody's mind first, right? So we embody these same energies. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. And I ain't yelling at nobody. I'm just passionate, bitch. Okay, I got a lot of fire in my chart. That's all it is. That's all it is. Okay, I love everybody, and I love you for coming out and hanging out with me. I love the fact that I was able to do this. Okay, I've been wanting to break down the number 9 for a minute, and now that I've done it, I feel like I can get thee behind. Okay, and go to the other things that are here in the future. But if you like this concept, please come back. If you like this discussion, please let me know. Okay, if you have questions about some of the shit I said and it didn't make sense, you can even drop that in the comment section, baby. I'm here for it all. I like to have a safe space where we can talk and we can engage. And this is just how my mind works. So I'm just happy to be able to get these thoughts out there. But that is all. That is all I got for the moment. I will tune in with you guys soon. Until next time, y'all take care.